No mechanism exists to make payments over a communications channel without a trusted party. What is needed is an electronic payment system based on cryptographic proof instead of trust, allowing any two willing parties to transact directly with each other without the need for a trusted third party.
All right, welcome to the show, everybody. It
Hello.
is Super Happy Dragon Lucky, episode 0x33, the 52nd episode. This is the year anniversary, approximate, but it's 52 weeks. This
Nice.
is the 52nd week. You didn't know that, did you, Rocco?
I did not know that. That's great.
That's
Love
pretty
it.
good stuff, right?
Yeah.
So this week we are obviously doing, this is a very special episode of Super Happy Dragon Lucky, and we're going to be presenting the public proposal to of Dragonchain to the Reddit scaling bake-off. So it should be fun. Before we get into that, though, we have a couple of things to get through so we don't forget. The open source money contest, week 4 for episode 4, is going to be chosen this Thursday. So you still have a chance to enter, and whether you win or not, as long as you get an entry in, you will be also entered for the grand prize of 500,000 dragons, which is
a lot of dragons.
it's a goodly amount. It's pretty
Yes.
good, right?
Yeah.
And so get up, so watch the show, get on Philo or ping a friend or something, get the answer, watch last week for the clue, because frankly I don't want to mess it up. I can't remember what the clue was, enter, and we'll see what happens. But I believe you, Rocco, you have the prize amount
Yes.
for week 5.
Yes, I
Right.
do. The prize amount. Ready for this, guys? It is 68,500 dragons, and that is the number of Dragonchain Twitter followers as of June 4th, 2020. So that's a lot of followers. It's a lot of dragons. It's looking good, guys. Get in there and vote.
Right. Perfect. And 68,000. I hadn't even remembered it was going to be that much.
Yeah.
What then is the clue, Rocco?
All right. Yes, I have the clue right here. Get ready, guys. Here we go. The clue is, what phrase appears on the final title screen of the Dragonchain commercial that will be airing during Open Source Money on August 1st, 2020.
Right.
So there is
final
your clue
episode.
to week. Look for
Yeah.
that phrase, guys, at the end of the commercial.
And it'll be multiple choice, so it should be, you should be able to see it. So
Yeah, I love a
excellent.
multiple choice.
Great. And you enter at dragonchain.com/contests/open-source-money. Okay? You can see it at the top there. So that being wrapped up, let's get into the Reddit proposal, right? So if you go to the Ethereum subreddit, you can, I think it's the top post, or at least every time I go there, it's the thing that shows up right at the top.
Yep.
I don't know if it's pinned or what, but it's the Great Reddit Scaling Bake-Off. So it is basically, do you believe your Ethereum scaling tech can handle Reddit's scale? And they're wanting people to post proposals and ideas and comments and questions, so that they can figure out how they can scale what they're wanting to do, which I didn't get a chance to look it up, but years ago they tried to do something with tokens, and I was really excited about it, and I was really disappointed when it didn't happen. They basically said it wasn't scalable enough, and at the time it was mostly just Bitcoin around. This is prior to Ethereum being out, and so this at least appears to me to be what they were wanting to do with that, and now that Ethereum's here and there's better token standards and everything. So anyway, it's really good stuff. And so the goal, in conjunction with Ethereum Foundation, that Reddit's inviting these scaling projects to show how the scaling solution can be used to bring community points to mainnet. on Reddit itself. So this would be actual proper standard tokens on Ethereum. And so the goal is to find a solution that could support hundreds of thousands of community points users, and we would hope millions. That we would hope their full user base on mainnet, and then they say eventually scale to all of Reddit, 430 million monthly. Basically, they know there are plenty of awesome projects that they don't know about yet. So this is really, in my opinion, a really good way to do it, because you're going to bring in stuff that you wouldn't expect, and maybe even that the community itself wouldn't expect. So let's see here. Most existing scaling solutions focus on exchanges, which that is a bothersome pattern for a while, which optimizes for transfers. They don't take in consideration creating, minting, obtaining tokens, and that's a big thing, and usually it's pretty expensive depending on your token contract and some of what you're doing. It's unclear how to determine the best solution. There's a lot of code, a lot of documentation, a lot of hype, but few objective real-world reviews or comparisons of various products and implementations. And maybe to be polite, they don't say that there's a lot of tribalism out there, so even if you bring up something that really would be your best bet for use, you're going to hear a good percentage of people that are going to, say something really nasty and horrible about it, or its people, or its community, or
that's very unfortunate. Very unfortunate, because we're all in this together, guys, right? I mean,
yep. That's the thing. It's like, we would love, in fact, to, and we say this, we would love to work with a lot of these projects that we're seeing on here. So they have criteria below, and they want a POC. Right? They want a proof of concept. They want something to be real. They don't want it just to be a theoretical or a white paper or anything else. Okay? So invite all scaling experts in the Ethereum community to also comment on any demos submitted to enable a better understanding of trade-offs, and basically more eyeballs is better. It's like just like regular open source stuff. Review the demos. Okay, so the demos should include a live proof of concept showing hundreds of thousands of transactions. Okay, it should include the source code, and they speak specifically about details on this, but they want the source code to be available so that part of the review can be if somebody wants to look at the source code. They want plenty of documentation. There's a lot of stuff about how it works and scales, are the APIs documented, how easy is this to integrate, so on and so on. And very importantly, summary of cost and resource info for both on and off-chain components used in the POC, as well as cost and resource estimates for further scaling, right? So if your POC is not on mainnet, make note of any caveats, congestion, so on and so on. And that's really complex stuff when you're transitioning from testnet to mainnet with real users and so on. So requirements then on scaling. So the POC should scale to the numbers below with minimal cost, both on and off chain. So this would be over a 5-day period. Your scaling POC should be able to handle 100,000 point claims, which is minting and distribution of tokens, 25,000 subscriptions, 75,000 one-off point burning operations, and 100,000 transfers over a 5-day period. So that works down to, it's a good amount if you're on mainnet Ethereum. But if you're doing something like we're doing, or something like some of the other projects that we've seen proposals for, this is a very doable thing in a POC. So, okay. Decentralization. Solutions should not depend on a single third-party provider. Usability. This is a huge one for us. That simple end-user experience. Users shouldn't have to maintain any extra state proofs, monitor activity, keep track of extra keys, or sign anything that they wouldn't things they wouldn't have to do if they're using Reddit today, right? Things that you want a normal, in my opinion, you want a normal user, non-crypto user, to be able to use this system. And well, we'll get into that. Transactions completing in a reasonable amount of time, seconds or minutes, not hours or days. Free to use for end users. No gas fees or fixed minimal fees that Reddit could pay on their behalf. And then bonus points for basically being able to view balances, blockchain explorer type interface, easy to get in and out of the system. Interop, compatibility with third-party apps, wallets, contracts, etc. necessary. Extensible, allow third parties to build on top of it, well-documented APIs, full documentation as much as possible. Third-party permissionless integrations should be possible and straightforward, right? Simple is better. Learning an uncommon or proprietary language should not be necessary. It's a very important point in the real world. Advanced knowledge of math, crypto, or level 2 scaling should not be required. Again, very, very good requirements. And then bonus points. Show us how it works. Do you have an idea for other cool new use cases for community points? Okay. Security. So there's a lot about security, user owning their own points, points recoverable to on-chain ERC20 tokens, even if all third parties involved go offline. Public third-party review, so on, so on, so on. Then they have other considerations on not wanting to handle the minting themselves directly, one-off point burning, and recurring non-interactive point burning for subreddits, if the subreddit wants to handle maybe subscriptions that way, or maybe reputation that way. And then fully open source, obviously. Okay, so then it goes into the stats and how community points work right now. It's interesting stuff. I signed up from the mobile app on one of my Reddit accounts, and I'm just getting into figuring out how to actually claim and do some of this stuff, so it's pretty cool. All right, now we go down to our actual comment, and just so you know, so I'm logged in as myself here. I'm Jojo Rowe on Reddit, and we couldn't post from the Dragonchain gang official Reddit account. We did. We posted it all and realized that we didn't have enough comment karma, so the bot removed all of our posts, and we're like, so apologies to the moderators. I don't know if you get more traffic from that or not. Hopefully not, but I then went in with my old account from Mechanical Keyboard days. This is how I have enough comment karma, and I posted. So anybody who thought that it was all my work, it wasn't. It was quite a bit of work from the team, and even a few community members. King George was in there as well. But basically, the team put together a massive amount of content really fast when we decided to do this. And in doing this, we have no expectation that we're going to win this thing. What we wanted to do is say, look, we can do this, and you should think about these things, Reddit, when you do this, that there are some things that are really important to what you're trying to do that you might think of as impossible right now, right?
Yeah.
And so it seems like whenever you tell somebody, no, this is possible, and you have some options here, right? That it kind of opens up minds and opens it up to, like, let's put it together, and maybe we'll be able to talk to them. I don't know how they're going to handle whatever, but anyway. So now we're going to go through our proposal. All right, and I'm going to switch over to the actual blog view because it's not threaded. So the TLDR, the too long didn't read summary. Dragonchain has presented twice Reddit's entire total daily volume, votes, comments, and posts there's an article here on 2019 year in review that gave all the metrics. And we did this in a 24-hour demo on our operational network. So within 24 hours, we did twice the full and complete traffic of all of Reddit's users, all their posts, all their votes on our operational DragonNet. So important to note, because a lot of people don't understand how Dragonchain works. Every single transaction that goes onto a Dragonchain node is decentralized immediately through 5 levels of DragonNet, and those are all independently controlled nodes. And we'll talk about that later. and then secured with a combined proof on Bitcoin, Ethereum, Ethereum Classic, and Binance Chain via interchain. Okay, so that's every single transaction. At the time that we did this demo in January 2020, the entire cost of the demo was approximately $25,000, and it was run that for that single system. The transaction fees at that time were locked at 1/100th of a cent in US dollars per transaction. So with current fees, though, which is 25/10 millionths of a dollar per transaction, that's the lowest possible fee rate right now on DragonNet, it would cost as little as $625 to run that test. So
That's incredible.
So given it, yeah, and it's nice, and we're figuring out a lot about how we can scale the economics as well as the systems. You know, the demo we did was to scale the systems, and we've come back after we saw what happened and what could be done, and we've now scaled some of the economy as well. So I'm Joe Rhodes, founder and CEO of Dragonchain, blah, blah, blah. I should be founder and architect, but whatever. When the team and I first heard about it, we were intrigued. We thought, okay, this would be a good chance to get an explanation out for some of our stuff. And so here it is. Here's the proposal. And if you can, if you're watching this, either watch an hour later, if you have questions after this airs, feel free to ask them. But ideally, if you could ask questions right now, and ideally from within whatever section we're on, we'll try to handle it immediately. Anything else, if you ask something that maybe we'd already covered earlier, we'll try to hit it at the end. Ask it, wherever you're at, wherever you're watching from in the comments. Okay, executive summary. Dragonchain is a robust, open source, hybrid blockchain platform that has proven to withstand the passing of time since inception in 2014. So I went to Disney in 2014 and we started working on this, and a lot of these ideas had come from the prior 4 years that I was working in blockchain, and all of them fit into all of my scaling work that I do as a software architect. That's what I do. I'm a geek. I didn't come out of the banking world. I'm not from Goldman Sachs. I'm not a lawyer, right? So this is all about scale, and it's all about engineering, and it's all about we have a definite foundation in liberty coming from Bitcoin, and all of that fits very well into our architecture and ecosystem. So those are really important. So we started in 2014 at Disney. We open sourced in 2016 from Disney. Disney approved the creation of the Dragonchain Foundation, and I left Disney in 2017. We commercialized Dragonchain late 2017, and we've been building stuff since then. And it's been a tremendous amount of work, and I have the best team that I've ever worked with for this company, and we built out a lot of things. So we currently have a live, operational, fully functional interchain network that integrates Bitcoin, Ethereum, Ethereum Classic, and 700 independent Dragonchain nodes. Every transaction is secured to Ethereum, Bitcoin, and Ethereum Classic, as described above. Transactions are immediately usable on-chain, so you do not have to wait for full verification. Depending upon the type of data and what you're doing with it, you can decide whether to wait or not until it gets to higher levels, including to Bitcoin. How do I see this? The first decentralization is typically seen within 20 seconds. Usually it's less than that, but occasionally it hits around 20. And then after it is passes through all the DragonNet, it does make its way into Ethereum, Bitcoin, and Ethereum Classic within 10 minutes to 2 hours, depending on which network and various other things. But they are all aggregated, so every block ends up with proof on all of those chains. Smart contracts can be written. It's a platform. Smart contracts can be written in any executable language. full freedom for existing developers. You don't have to have special skills in Solidity or any other special language. You can use any language you want, and in fact you can use the full language. We'll talk later about how we do that, and if you have questions, the architecture is really interesting there, for at least a software guy. Let's see here. We specialize in scalable loyalty and reward solutions. We've built a decentralized social network on chain, a community forum platform. We've built an academy, a fully native blockchain learning management system that rewards can be applied within. What else? We've also built some other anti-censorship tools, and we continue to build stuff there. So anyway, so I'm going to explain how this works. So for our response and the proof of concept, Reddit asked for a series of demonstrations, requirements, and other considerations. So we're going to attempt to answer all these. Any place that you see a quote like this, this is a quote from the actual Reddit post, which we would consider like an RFP. And in this, we will answer each of these directly. Okay. So live demo, live proof of concept showing hundreds of thousands of transactions. So I'm going to go down here, and we are going to just play this, and it's basically the 24-hour scaling demonstration in a time-lapse 4 minutes with some of the descriptions as well. So listen here, and we'll be right back.
On January 7, 2020, Dragonchain hosted a 24-hour live demonstration during which 250 million transactions were executed fully on an operational network. Every single transaction on Dragonchain is decentralized immediately through 5 levels of DragonNet, and then secured with combined proof on Bitcoin, Ethereum, Ethereum Classic, and Binance Chain, via Interchain. This means that every single transaction is secured by, and traceable to these networks. An attack on this system would require a simultaneous attack on all of the interchained networks. The demonstration was of a single business system, and any user is able to scale this further, by running multiple systems simultaneously. Our goal for the event was to demonstrate consistent capacity greater than that of Visa over an extended time period. The event illustrates the level of scaling possible with Dragonchain's operational network and interchain capabilities. At no point during the demonstration did other business systems see any detrimental effects to their own Dragonchain systems. There was no congestion on the operational DragonNet. Transaction fees did not increase for any node on the entire network, even though we saw 6 orders of magnitude increase in traffic. On the Dragonchain network, transaction fees are deterministic and predictable. Taking advantage of Dragonchain's economic model, a business can reduce transaction fees to as low as 25 10 of a dollar per transaction. Yes, that's $0.000025 per transaction. These were not empty transactions. Every transaction contained mock-up data representing real-world employee data such as first name, last name, home addresses, etc. The system used to broadcast this data and scale the business system nodes is open source. Dragonchain's architecture attacks the scalability issue from multiple angles. Dragonchain is a hybrid blockchain platform, wherein every transaction is protected on a business node to the requirements of that business or purpose. A business node may be held completely private or may be exposed or replicated to any level of exposure desired. Every node has its own blockchain and is independently scalable. Dragonchain established context-based verification as its consensus model. Every transaction is immediately usable on a trust basis, and in time is provable to an increasing level of decentralized consensus. A transaction will have a level of decentralization to approximately 700 independently owned and deployed Dragonchain nodes within seconds, and full decentralization to Bitcoin and Ethereum within minutes or hours. Level 5 nodes, also called interchain nodes, function to secure all transactions to public or otherwise external chains such as Bitcoin and Ethereum. These nodes scale the system by aggregating multiple blocks into a single interchain transaction on a cadence. This timing is configurable based upon average fees for each respective chain. For detailed information about Dragonchain's architecture and context-based verification, please refer to the Dragonchain architecture document at https://dragonchain.com/dragonchain-architecture.pdf. For more information about Dragonchain and its products and services, visit dragonchain.com. Thank you for watching.
All right. That was exciting, right?
That was so awesome.
It was lovely.
Very cool.
I wish we would have put the video together way back, but it was a perfect opportunity to do it. Right? We need to show it.
Definitely.
It's the demo. It's already there. We couldn't really demonstrate any more effectively than what we did. And this is important. This highlighted point, and she did say this. So the demonstration was a single business system, yet anybody could scale it further, because we could have had 4 different groups running that same demo, and you know, our hardest part was funneling through how do I say this, to model real users, and you know, pushing transactions into the system. The verification side of it was nothing. We didn't have any bottlenecks at all in DragonNet or in even with Ethereum and Bitcoin, and getting transactions on chain or anything else. We had already seen one. Anyways, it's a scaling thing. It's really interesting stuff. There's a ton of, we could go for hours on that. But anyway, the fact that it's independently scalable nodes is pretty powerful, because if Reddit decided to throw another capability on top, or integrate with some other social network on top of this, it would still scale. I mean, you know, it might be a separate node. They could separate it, add another node. They could do all different types of things. But anyway, also the tooling to reproduce the demo is open source, and it's called Spirit Bomb, and this was the actual code that was used to load those transactions and to manage the network that would be equivalent to Reddit's network, where you know, they could scale it by in this in particular we were running entirely on AWS, but you could run the same thing on Azure or Google, or in your own data center. So, and all the descriptions there, full set of codes there. It's great. Okay, so source code. We get into this. So source code for on and off chain components they want to know, as well as the tooling used for the proof of concept, should be open source. Doesn't have to be shared publicly, but if Reddit decides to use a solution, it will at least need to be shared with Reddit, right? Which wouldn't be open source in my world, but that's at least I understand that they want everything possible to be available to this decision. So Dragonchain Core, obviously, open source, right? And this is the original place that we released it to from Disney, and it's been, you know, massively refactored, and tons of work has been going on there for 4 years now. We also have the tooling for demonstration, what I just showed you, and then another thing to note, we do have, and this is, you know, this is not me logged in. We do have all the SDKs, single sign-on components, the command line shell is open source. The installers, we have some interesting installers. You can even run some of the nodes on Raspberry Pi as an example. We also have example smart contracts and things like that. There are nice interfaces inside of the command line shell as well to hit those. So all that's open source. And we have a few more things that are probably open source coming up as well. All right, scaling. This is where it gets interesting. at least for me, that Reddit wants to know, how does it work and scale, right? And from that, in that video that we just watched, she specifically mentions that we have multiple dimensions of scaling in our architecture, and I guess on our system generally. That the architectural scaling itself, as a software architect, I tend to think of it as a very structural thing, and that is on purpose. That is, it is not based upon the latest cryptographic algorithms. This entire system is based fully about on the structure of the data itself and the way that the interchange happens. So basically, being hybrid, every transaction is protected on a business node, and we say to the requirements of that business or purpose, meaning depending on the type of data, depending on the business, depending on the user, it might or might not be private, but by default it is private, because most business, you have proprietary data. It could be PII, it could be financial data, it could be medical data, it could be just customer information that you don't want to put out there in the public. So by default, those are all private. Now, every one of those nodes could be exposed or replicated. We have some, we've actually worked some disaster recovery capabilities based upon a subscription to data on your private node, things like that. But why does that matter? Because it being hybrid, it hits a whole bunch of other points, which we'll get into. So every node, business node and verification node, has its own blockchain and is independently scalable. Okay, and we'll get into how it scales mechanically in a minute. But we established what we call context-based verification when we released the architecture out of Disney in 2016. And every what it means is every transaction goes through a series of different verifications from different contexts. So we have a context that does a validation of all the transactions, just make sure the headers are there, that the signatures are correct, that it's a registered node, things like that. Then we have a context that checks, are your validations diverse? Did they come from a node that you own, or are they from independent nodes? Did you get multiple of them? Are they in different environments? Things like that. Then we have a notary context that basically takes a named entity. It can be, there are some people in our community who have one of these nodes. There are some businesses who have one of these nodes, and their names are public. That node exposes its owner. And then we have a context that is for security interchain, which is level 5, we call it, that connects to Bitcoin, Ethereum, Ethereum Classic. We used to do Neo. We used to do Binance. Right now we're just the 3, but we're going to add more later. And what that means is you can add other contexts, right? At least generically. Architecturally, we chose those in implementation, and we chose them at Disney, and we've kept them ever since. But you could add other angles of verification if you wanted. And because it's hybrid, it's interesting because your business data within a transaction payload is stripped before it goes up into the further modes, the other contexts of verification. And the reason we do that is because our verification is considering for proof that this happened. It is not considering the business case. It's not considering the smart contract itself. That's up to you. That's your business, right? So how do I say this? Let's see here. 320. There's a question. Am I right? I'll ask this, or we'll get to it in a minute here. Okay, we haven't hit that yet. That we crawl through this vertical chain of verifications while we are simultaneously crawling across from left to right, what would be a normal chaining, blockchain itself. So it's interesting, and the reason it matters is because when you have these, it means that everything happening at that private node, in that business node, can be much more flexible. It's very, very simple to implement. You can use any language you want. You can connect it to any legacy system or to any other blockchain for that matter. And it's all very straightforward. So the architectural thing, I mean, I could talk about this for hours. So I'm not going to. So if you have questions about that, do let us know. And then we hit upon economic scaling, okay? And this is interesting, although it's very abstract. Hopefully I can explain it well here. Basically, the DragonNet nodes, what I just described, validation, diversity, notary, and security, are all independent nodes run by independent people or entities. And we have a concept called time. It used to be called Dragon Days of Slumber or Dragon Days of Slumber Score. We rebranded that to be called time because it was too hard to explain it to people when you start with that other name. And time is basically calculated as the number of dragons held multiplied by the number of days that you have held them, right? So time itself influences the user's access to features within our ecosystem, and it's done that since 2018. So it takes into account both the balance and the length of time that you've held each dragon, which is meaningful because it's much harder to attack the system or to participate well quickly. That you basically have to put time into it. So it's much harder to develop. You could buy 1 million dragons, but you're still going to take a while to build up 1 billion time in order to get that lowest fee. Right?
Hey, Joe, you ready for a question? I think we have
Sure.
one related to
Sure.
Yep. Okay, so we got from Null Stack. How do you plan on generating enough time for the transaction fees to be as low as you propose in the blog post?
Okay, so and this is a matter of anybody that has time already can do this, right? I mean, if you have 1 billion time, you could run nodes at that price. The way that we're doing it on the enterprise side is we're basically proposing that there's an enterprise contract. We stake time that Dragonchain has, and we buy out what we have, which are what's their CTLC contracts. It's basically a time lease that you can borrow time that other people have accumulated that aren't using it, and you pay for that. And we're going to revamp that so that it's better tuned to the current economy. But it's already in place. The technical implementation is already all there. So combination of those two things to start, and ideally over time they would hold their own time, and be charged less for all of it in the end. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
I think that's the best answer to that.
I'm going to piggyback on that one, actually. So Brian Schmeekers, he's asking, how much deep time do you think it would take to implement Dragon solutions for Reddit's needs? So how much time do you think they would need, Reddit?
Depending upon what they want entirely. I mean, we know some of what they want, but they obviously are they're very open-minded, it appears, right now. So they have a lot of possibilities. That actual development time, like say we take votes, we take posts, we take comments or replies, and we throw those in first, right?
Okay.
Really fast. I mean, it's all RESTful. They're SDKs. I don't know what their backend is, but it's relatively simple to integrate those, and even to integrate them in parallel with their current system, so they don't have anything that they might fail because they mess up some code in the integration, right? So we would want something where it's a very well tested and easily testable implementation. But that stuff, I would say, you could do in a month. I mean, you probably.
Yeah.
I'll be conservative and say that because I know that our guys could probably do it in a week. But there's a lot beyond just getting it to work, right? There's we have to
build your time.
Yeah, and you have to slowly test it, right? Like you would say, okay, let's just take a tenth of the traffic, make sure nothing fails. Then we ramp it up. Now you have full traffic. Now the other side of it, which it does appear that they are most interested in, because they didn't think that was possible. That that is all of their activity, but the tokenization, that is the minting and distribution of tokens, token transfers, and other things like that. It would take a little more time, but it wouldn't be that bad. And it depends too. We get into it. I'll show you later. There are 3 options that we have for that itself. So we'll get to there. Okay. So time is staked by users on every verification node. So time itself, and what it takes you a lot of patience and time to accumulate time. And we often say time can't be manipulated. So if you end up working yourself up to 50 or 100 million time, that's pretty good. Now you stake it against one of the verification nodes, and basically your time, if you are selected to verify a block with your node, the time that you have staked on that node is going to dictate the proportion of the business transaction fee that you get for that work. And that's how it works. And rather than doing proof of work, we have this this time component that gets me a proportion of the fees that the business paid. Now on the other side,
I get them all the time. It's a beautiful thing getting those transactions coming through because you get some nice rewards in Dragons. Yeah, nice little chunk of change. I'm telling you.
Nice. All right, and so time also dictates on the other side of the economy the transaction fee itself, which this is a scalability, an economic scalability feature, because it means that the business is incentivized to buy and hold dragons in order to lower their fee for all of their transactions, right? So if you want that really, really low fee, you're going to have to commit, stake a ton of time and
hold them.
Yeah, and you have to hold them. And the beauty is they aren't held on our system. They are held hopefully in your cold wallet. And we are you're able to prove that you own that wallet to the system, and that's all it takes. And so it's a very fair trade-off between the two sides, the verifier and the business. So then we do scale deployment. So scale deployment is the fact that, and one of the big reasons that we are a hybrid blockchain platform is it allows us to allow the customer to how do I say this, to apply best practices, security and deployment that they already know. All of their DevOps people already know Kubernetes and Docker, and Dragonchain is entirely based on Kubernetes and Docker. So every single node is scaled with Kubernetes, and it's a Docker image, and so within that Docker image you can put anything. So you can have any executable code running as smart contracts. You can do any other things that you would do in a Docker image, and it's really flexible because of that. So we've had it before. I mean, no blockchain experience. If you're a developer, it's pretty interesting. We have SDKs for Node.js, Python, Java, Go, and we've even demonstrated Bash shell script smart contracts. So theoretically, it would be, your boss comes to you and say, we need to get this, and how fast can you get me a smart contract that does X? And the fact that your sysadmin, your DevOps guy, or your developer could say, well, I'm just going to write it in Bash. I'm just going to write a simple shell script, with a bunch of Linux commands. I'm going to grep this. I'm going to awk that. I'm going to spit out your answer. Done, right? And I have that in 10 minutes, and now you have another 4 or 5 minutes for it to deploy, and you have the thing running. So,
I think this is one of the most hugest features of Dragonchain, because it's like, okay, in layman's terms, it's like, okay, if I'm going to France, I can speak French, right? If I'm going to, I don't know, Russia, I can speak Russian. So any language, it's so huge. It's like it's really cool. Oh, it's an amazing feature that you have.
Yeah. And that was it wasn't even. It was weird. It fell into line when I was building the architecture. It was, we originally had some pretty tight constraints. We had to write everything in Python, and it was ugly, and we had to escape tons of. It was ugly, but when we started building this out and realized, oh my gosh, we could do this, and we could do that, and some of the devs came in with the Docker and Kubernetes angle on implementation. I'm like, that's amazing, right? They'll hate that it took us as long as it did to get approval to do it, but man, it is an amazing thing. So let's see here. We also have better separation concerns, faster deployment, the things that DevOps people will already appreciate. That they already know how to run a system that fits this model. So and then Kubernetes again is massive, just very, very powerful, and supported on all the cloud platforms. So if you don't like AWS, or because you have a special deal with Azure, you can run it there. It doesn't matter if you don't want it. If you're military, or you have a radically sensitive data, you run in your own data center, right? We don't care, right? It's all good. So let's see here. Then flexibility and scaling, and this is about the ability to interoperate. And a lot of people will think of it as interop between blockchains, right? That between public and private. We have a built-in feature to do private Ethereum interchain. That already exists on the platform. It's been well tested by some very interesting people, and we've also built out, we've not productized it ever, but we built out an Hyperledger integration. We obviously have Bitcoin integration. We had that at Disney before we released. We had that in 2016. We had built the Ethereum interchain in 2018. That was the first one we did commercially, and then we did Ethereum Classic, and we have done Neo. We have some old code there. Up until a few months ago, maybe it was a month ago, we were also running Binance Chain, but an update kind of got us, well, we'll wait until they change something with their code, and we'll deploy it again probably. And we have a couple others coming, but we also have experience and a lot of interest in interchaining with what I would consider to be utility projects. That is library. We list as an example that theoretically you could either, Reddit could either include this as optional for subreddits. Certain subreddits, it would make really good sense to put stuff onto library as well. Others, it might not matter, right? So you wouldn't want the extra cost, but the fact that you can do that might be really valuable, and the fact that it can be all blockchain based and provable, and whether it's licensing of ownership or anything else, you could do a lot with that. MakerDAO allow people to lend small amounts backed by the Reddit community points that that you could build very easily with this system, and integration with MakerDAO or any other lending contract stuff, that a project that would allow you to lend your Reddit points. I don't know if it makes sense to Reddit or not, but it's a cool idea. And then stores, Siacoin, other storage coin, where you could allow decentralized on-chain storage of portions of that content. Maybe even integrate it with Imager or something else that people would typically use in a one of the subreddits that people post pictures or GIFs. right? Tons of stuff there, and for that matter, this is meant to address that because it is a hybrid environment and because the smart contracts are can be thought of in a more traditional manner on purpose. It's interesting that any other subsystems that are not decentralized, things that Reddit uses right now, accounting, legal, administrative, anything else, can be directly integrated. And basically it's all software at this level. So it's basic that anything that would make sense to them for business or for better user experience can be integrated readily. If you already have developers, they don't need to be specialized skills. So anyway, next up, cost. So they wanted cost estimates on and off chain. So for the purpose of the proposal, we assumed that all transactions are on chain. All posts, all replies, all votes, the entire system. Okay? On the Dragonchain network, transaction costs are deterministic and predictable. Something I didn't mention above, that when we get to those costs, those transaction fees based upon how much time you stake, the interesting thing is it does not vary. It does not go up and down when CryptoKitties comes online, or when you think about it, when Reddit comes online and starts using Ethereum, are the gas prices going to go up? We'll talk about that in a minute. So on Dragonchain, they are deterministic and predictable. So if I stake a million times, my transaction is going to be 10 cents. Every transaction on that node until I change the amount of time I apply. So I say, oh, you know what? I have more transactions than I wanted. I'm going to apply 7 million times. So now my transaction is only half a cent, right? It's a beautiful thing. I reduced it drastically by just adding time. So that's how it works. And the beauty then is that a business can come in and they don't have to explain how blockchain fees work to their accountants, right? They say, look, here's the system, and every transaction we send, it is half a cent. The accountant's like, okay, I get it, right? I can make sure that you're not being overcharged, whatever else, but no matter what happens on the network, we saw in our demo, from one day to the next, from the day before the demo to the day of the demo, we had a 6 orders of magnitude increase in traffic. I mean, it's like that's 6 zeros difference in traffic from day 1 to day 2, and no fees increased, no fees changed for any other node on the entire system,
and that's
the entire
huge.
network.
Yeah.
It's really interesting.
Yeah.
If the crazy thing is, if anything, they got better service because there's an interesting implementation feature of the level 5 interchain nodes that when they fill up with too many transactions in aggregate, they realize I'm going to go ahead and send them out sooner than I would normally schedule to do so, because so rather than going out every let's say 10 minutes for Ethereum Classic or whatever it's set at, that if it fills up fast enough, it'll go out in 6 minutes, right? Or for Bitcoin, if it's going out every hour, if it fills up fast enough, it's going to go out every 15 minutes. So it's interesting. You would get better service the more traffic is that there is on there. But the other point of it, which is unique to Dragonchain, is that the worst thing about public blockchains is when you have a radically high increase in traffic, that you can't even get a transaction in a block normally, right? And so with us, everything's independent. So if your node is up and you can access your node, then your node is functioning, and it doesn't even care. Even if the rest of the network went down, you're going to delay the proof you get, but it doesn't matter. Your business can keep operating. So it's an interesting point. And so here's the fee table, and this, we just added the 0 time. We moved it from 50 cents to $1, and we added a lot more steps in between, up to $1 billion, and we really lowered the amount at $1 billion.
It makes it simple. I mean, businesses say, "Oh, how much is you going to charge me?" Well, here you go. Take a look at this, and
Yep.
You know, it's self-explanatory. That's what they want to see.
Yep. And we do have stuff on top where there is consulting. There is
Yeah, that's true.
Other things. We do custom development for some companies as well. So it depends. But one way or another, those transaction fees, those are the points that can be really scary if you're about to integrate blockchain in your system, especially if you have a system the size of Reddit with the number of users. So, okay, next up was getting started. How to run it. So, building on Dragonchain is simple, requires no blockchain experience. The more you learn, the more, and that's a intended effect as well. You can run it in your cloud environment, on-prem in your data center, run it in AWS. We have clear documentation. And what you do is you download DCTL, which is the command line shell. You input 3 commands into a terminal. You build an image and you run it, right? And there's even some neat little starters. It gives you a template, smart contract, and you can just code in whatever language you've chosen. And it gives you something in Node.js, and you just start coding. So we have quick start documentation that gives you a hello world, gives you a little more detail, shows you what the transactions look like, shows you how to create transactions, and it shows you how to do the whole thing. So it's pretty sweet, pretty simple. You can get it running any IDE, straight command line. Use Vim, you can use Emacs, whatever you want. And then we have the full documentation too, which includes an architectural overview, installation, description of transaction types, description of blocks, smart contracts, interchain, so on and so on, and the auth. So there's some interesting features with the auth keys and stuff like that. So here we get into architecture again, a different aspect of it, that it's open source and hybrid. That we have 5 separate levels, and I've described those above. KYC pretty much for level 4. I didn't say KYC, but it is a KYC'd entity running a level 4. It's not anonymous. We do very much consider that we are the blockchain of blockchains, because every single verification node, every single node on the entire network has its own blockchain. Okay, so, and it's an interesting feature, and it's hard to describe, it's hard to visualize, because it's basically a weave of chains working together. And you can look at the Dragonchain architecture, which this is only 3 versions and hasn't been refreshed since 2016, because it's kind of an experiment as an architect for me to see how much stands up after as much time. And there's some things that I would describe differently now, but generally everything in here is accurate. And it goes through the architecture goals, which is ease of integration of existing systems. This is 2016, all right? Ease of integration of existing systems. It's important, and I knew, coming from all of the enterprise work that I had done before, that this was the most important thing for blockchain to do if blockchain is to get real world adoption, right? Ease of integration. If you don't have that, just write it off, because it doesn't matter how much a token is worth, it's not going to be adopted, right? Because enterprises are finicky, they're fickle, they don't care. Everything has to work, and a lot of stuff is mission critical. If something goes down, I lose my job, right? So I'm not going to adopt something that I don't know is solid and going to work.
Okay, we may have a question that relates to this, Joe. You ready for that one?
Yeah.
All right. So Jeffrey Dragon, how does Dragonchain leverage or interact with the Ethereum network? Is it just for the token operations? Is Ethereum a requirement to use for Dragonchain?
Okay. So it interacts at multiple levels. for utility, what we call wormholes, which we won't get into here, but it's you could consider it as two different parallel universes that I have. Ethereum on one side, where my tokens are standard token. There's an ecosystem where people can use Ethereum hardware wallets. You can use my crypto. You can use my Ether wallet. You can use all of the things that Ethereum can use. Yet, on the other side, in the other parallel universe, we have the same token mapped one-to-one inside of DragonNet, where we can have these radical numbers of transactions scaled without incurring the fees on Ethereum for every transaction. And we do that by, what we described before, where every one of these transactions gets verified all the way up and then does get proven to Bitcoin and Ethereum and Ethereum Classic. And then we just have gates on the in and outbound parts of it. So Ethereum would not normally, I guess at an architectural level, a philosophical level, wouldn't be required. We have leveraged Ethereum for our token economy, much the way that we're in this proposal saying that Reddit should, to use the standard Ethereum tokens and yet to scale them by having this other universe. We also use it for, so we do use Ethereum for the tokens. We use it for one of the many interchains for security. We also use it for another smart contract platform utility, where if you have some bit of your business processing that needs to be exposed, you can write a smart contract on Ethereum and call it from within your Dragonchain smart contract, and it's a very clean way to say, I'm going to take step 3 of my 10-step algorithm and I'm going to make step 3 publicly transparent, whereas the rest I can't for legal, or maybe it's HIPAA data or something else, right? Okay. So anyway, you can look at the architecture, and it's actually I try to tell the devs, read this before you ask questions, right? And because almost everything that we built is answered inside of the architecture document. The reasons that some of the structure is the way it is, and how it works and how it scales and things like that are all in there. But these goals were really important, and this is what we really threw up against the rocks at Disney to see, does this work? Is this usable? Can upper management understand it? Is it something that they will agree to, right? So anyway, the architecture document, it's good stuff. Then let's see here, API documentation. So they want to know about documentation. So we have a Python SDK. We have a Node. Well, here's Python SDK. We have a Node SDK. We have the Go SDK. We have DCTL, which is the command line utility itself, which you can see, you can get status. You can work with transactions. You work with transaction types, with contracts, with blocks. It's really interesting stuff, and there's some actually some pretty cool developments that have happened there recently. Direct API references and RESTful API, which you can see what's actually being passed between, and most of the SDKs are basically just wrapping the RESTful API and adding easier to use credentialing off for the language, and all the sources are on our GitHub, organization GitHub. So now they all also ask about known issues or trade-offs. So Dragonchain is open source, and even though the platform is easy enough for a developer to code in any language, we don't have as large of a developer community as does Ethereum, obviously, right? Ethereum's huge. So, we're hoping people come in, see what we have, give us feedback, maybe they'll get interested and help us out. There's some really cool stuff, especially when we're talking about an interchain. And that's Ethereum Classic as well. That we brought Ethereum Classic in a while back philosophically because it's a very interesting fork or unfork, whatever it is. Either way, it's really cool stuff. So another drawback is we only have 700 nodes. Ethereum has 8,000 and Bitcoin has 10,000, at least last when we checked. So we do consider, though, that we are using those nodes. So we basically leverage Bitcoin and Ethereum both for their security. And when we talk about interchain security, our goal it's a very organic goal. Our goal is to get as much variety in consensus algorithm as possible, to get as much either network or hash power as possible as well. So Bitcoin alone is a radical king of hash power, and Ethereum's really good at hash power too. Now Ethereum's going to move to proof of stake, so that will be nice because we'll have an alternate. And why do we have an alternate, or why do we want that diversity? It is as demonstrated with the Ethereum Classic 51% attack that happened, I don't know how long ago. It's been almost a year, maybe a year. That happened while we were in operations. That happened while we were using Ethereum Classic, and yet it didn't matter at all to any of our customers or to any of the transactions because Bitcoin was there and Ethereum was there. So to think that all of these interchain networks would all fail at the same time, it's possible, right? It could be an EMP or something, who knows? But they would all be there, right? So that's our intent, that anybody who would put something on here would then have, even if Bitcoin had some massive mistake in its implementation that we don't know about today, that we're still protected because Ethereum doesn't have that same issue. Or, there are cases where we might have shared libraries that might be across the board, but that's why staking is important as well. So, and everything is in, our metrics page, so you can see how many transactions have happened every day, and you can see how much time is applied. You can see when we added the new time, the timetable, the fee table. And we adjusted our time accordingly. You can see your average awards per. You can see applied time universally. Neat stuff, right? You can see chance of various nodes getting hit, stuff like that. And so that's all transparent. It's all out there. The last thing that we cited for a potential drawback is centralization, right? But this is by design, and it's by design to protect business data, number one, but also to scale any system. You could use banking systems, you could use telco systems on this, very typically really high volume, and all of these nodes can make their data public, and for that matter, they could, if they wanted, even integrate other chains to get consensus on that data if they want. But we did add to this the fact that every subreddit could control its own business node. And for that matter, that Reddit, if they wanted, could in the very least take private subreddits and say, okay, we're going to charge you for a private subreddit, and or you can run your own node. And that means you hold your data. Reddit wouldn't have the liability for holding that data because it has no control over it. And the decentralization is within the communities themselves, if you like. So there are a lot of different interesting things we could do there that we frankly have to see if it fits, goals.
Hey Joe, I think I have another question here.
Mm-hmm.
This is from Ryan. Most of the other projects seem to be using wallets in their POC for Reddit, which will require an extra signature and extra steps. Can Dragon truly bypass this to keep Reddit from a user standpoint unchanged?
Yes. And the great thing is it's very organic. And we've mostly, I've talked to other projects, but they're mostly like gaming projects, which is well suited to explain it, where what you want ideally is for the user, the normal user of Reddit today, to notice no difference, right? To basically, I'm a Reddit user, I'm still using it, or I become a new Reddit user and I'm just using it, and it's like, okay, I make a comment, and it's like, okay, this is kind of fun. This community is great. That I'm offering ideas, I'm learning stuff. It's a good discussion. And all of a sudden, they realize, oh, wait a minute, I have $5 in this, or maybe better. Maybe I have $50 that I've earned. It's like, well, I had no idea that I was doing this the whole time. I've just been doing my thing, and now I have this sitting over here, and that's when you turn on the necessary security best practices with crypto. That they have to establish a wallet. They have to ideally look at a hardware wallet. You can code in a lot of stuff to incentivize people to use hardware wallets and to protect them, and we did that. That's where Time came from, by the way. When we first did Time, that was the reason, because we knew a lot of normies were coming in because they were Disney fans, and I didn't want them to be keeping their all of their stashes of dragons on an exchange or on Ether Delta and all that, right? So it's like okay, we need to make it so that people aren't taken advantage of most. And so we basically created this time concept, and then we started to plug it into the ecosystem, or what can you use time for, what can how does it work, and it eventually ended up being a patented part of our actual network scaling. Which is what we described earlier. That time is our scarcity. It's not hardware. Because you can run it in the cloud, it doesn't matter. You can, time is the scarcity, and that's what I can't just add more nodes. I have to add more time to get part of it. And instead of having hardware as a scarcity, where that ends up being a failing point in your network, where if I get too much traffic, I don't have enough hardware applied, and it takes days for people to add more hardware. That with this, it's cloud-based, or it's at least scaled with Kubernetes in data centers, that the system can scale up very, very quickly, and yet the time scarcity is what keeps people competitive. So it's the part that doesn't matter to that actual physical scaling. So it's really neat. It's a really amazing thing, and we patented it because it's like we wanted to protect ourselves, for one thing. But anyway, so, and when I say that, it applies to DEN as well, and we'll show DEN in a minute, where you just interact with the system without caring about the tokens, and then when it matters, then you can claim a wallet and transfer your tokens or mint them, or whatever Reddit would want to term in the process. But anyway, now we get in costs and resources. So they ask for a summary of cost and resource info for both on and off-chain components used in a proof of concept, as well as cost and resource estimates for further scaling. So if your POC is not on mainnet, make note of any mainnet caveats, congestion issues. And they're talking about mainnet Ethereum right now in this. And our POC was on mainnet Dragonchain and mainnet Ethereum. So everything was properly noted a pure one-to-one, apples to apples comparison. So every transaction on the proof of concept system had a transaction fee of 1/100th of a cent, and we ended up hitting 256 million transactions that day. So the demo cost us approximately $25,600. With current operational fees, with the new table, the same demonstration would only cost $640. Okay, so it's a pretty radical
big difference there.
Yeah, and we did that on purpose, because now, again, this is the economic scaling side of things, where you're saying for that amount I could run this many transactions in a day. It's like, yep, you have to apply time.
Yeah.
So, but yes, so
absolutely.
So for the demonstration, to achieve throughput to mimic a worldwide payments network, we modeled several clients in AWS, and these were basically AWS. I think they were EC2 instances. I'm not absolutely certain what the full implementation was, but that we had a bunch of these feeding nodes to try to get the throughput that we wanted to show. And the business nodes were tuned to handle higher throughput by adjusting the memory and the machine footprint on AWS. So this flexibility is valuable because what Reddit is trying to build, they might have to tune things. Certain systems might need to be, a lot higher throughput than others. But given that Reddit's daily traffic is less than half of that of what we did in the demo, we would expect the entire system could be handled on 2 to 5 business nodes using right-sized containers on AWS or similar. And the verification was accomplished on the operational DragonNet with over 700 independently owned verification nodes running all around the world, all different data centers, at no cost to the business other than the paid transaction fees. So these paid transaction fees, that 10 millionth of a dollar fee that you get on a transaction, is paying for all of the DragonNet nodes and the Ethereum and the Bitcoin transactions that are coming out of it too. So really interesting stuff.
Definitely.
Then, you can drink here. We get into requirements and scaling. Okay, so they call out some POC scaling numbers. So the POC, proof of concept, should scale to the numbers below with minimal costs. There should also be a clear path to supporting hundreds of millions of users. A clear path, right? So they want, over a 5-day period, and we saw this at the very beginning, that your POC should be able to handle 100,000 point claims, 25,000 subscriptions, 75,000 one-off points burning operations, and 100,000 transfers, right? So that comes to 300,000 transactions. 300,000 transactions over 5 days, all right? So during our 24-hour demo, those numbers were matched in the first few minutes. I don't know, I'd have to do the math. I think we did the math, but it was in the first couple of minutes that we actually did more than 300,000 transactions on the system. And every one of those transactions provable all the way to Ethereum and Bitcoin and Binance Chain and Ethereum Classic at the time. Okay. So Reddit's total activity is 9,000% more than Ethereum's total current transaction level. So currently, Ethereum does 1 million transactions a day, approximate, and it's maybe a little less than that, but it's grown back to that. And Reddit has, this is yearly, 200 million posts, 1.7 billion replies or comments, and 32 billion votes. Okay, so we're talking almost 34 billion transactions, and we broke it down without the votes because that was so many orders of magnitude. It was, it was crazy. Another order of magnitude, I guess. And without votes, you're talking about 700% more. 7 times Ethereum traffic every day. But with votes, it's 92 times Ethereum's traffic every day, which, if you tried to do, long term, so if they really want to scale it to the entire system, and we're not even just talking about just to scale to all of your users and only do we'll hit upon the Ethereum side in a minute here, the numbers, but if you're talking about minting tokens based upon users' activity and the value that they bring to a community or content or evaluation or whatever they're doing, that you in the end are going to want proof on chain that in 3 years you're going to want people to go back and say, well, wait a minute, how did this user get that many points that month? It doesn't, that's out of whack. And you can actually go and you can see, okay, well, this is the post they made, and these are the 3 million votes that they got for that post, right? You're going to want to be able to prove that. And so we think that you need all of that on chain. Okay, so this is the route to get to that tomorrow, right? We can do this, but we can do it today, right? This is amazing scaling that can be done.
Okay. We have another question for you, Joe, here.
Okay.
All right. Since you're on transactions, we have from Jared Houston. What would happen if a Reddit L1 node went offline? would the user transactions on that node be lost?
You would have, and it depends on their implementation, right? My assumption is that their existing system would not be changed. So this would be in parallel. So basically, what you're talking about is those transactions would just be delayed. We've seen it happen on DragonNet itself on some of the nodes if someone has forgotten to include to fund their node, that the transactions still work, and in time, how do I say this? In time, after they fund the account, all the transactions start getting verified, right? So my assumption is that all the transactions would still continue on, and then when their node came back up, it would turn. And by the way, this is by design too, because one of the use cases and one of the projects that we worked a little bit on, we never deployed anything while I was there, but was the cruise ships at Disney. That when they're not at port, they don't necessarily have a full connectivity, network connectivity. They have it on the ship, but there's no way for that node to talk to the either the cloud environment or wherever else stuff is going on. So the intent was to have the node running there, and when it's back at port, basically now it's going to update everything on the live system. And so that's a
good example.
That was intended, and it works, right? It's interesting because it just catches up. Okay, decentralization. Solutions should not depend on a single third-party provider. So we have a bunch of different angles on this, even some stuff we've worked on with DEN that would apply. So our architecture is a hybrid approach. Private business nodes hold the sensitive data. Validation and verification transactions are decentralized within seconds. And that's on purpose, that you want as many independent nodes to say, oh, I got it, and I've done something, and here's evidence of it. And then within 10 minutes to 2 hours, it's going to be on all of the interchain networks as well, depending upon the cadence, which depends upon the fees, current fees for those networks, and that can be adjusted as well. We can ramp any of them up or down. Obviously, we couldn't do faster than 10 minutes on Bitcoin, but average. But the fact that we can aggregate and scale that public proof is important. We do believe, though, that nodes or these individual blockchains could be potentially controlled by individual subreddits or individual users within subreddits, or it could be some function of the ownership and funding of people who have gold or who have premium accounts with Reddit, that you're actually running nodes and you can get rewarded for running those nodes. So yeah, I'm going to pay for Reddit to run the maybe the cat gif subreddits node for this month or something like that. Really interesting stuff, and that offers some really organic decentralization. We also do currently have centralized billing, okay, and that's inside of the network. That's the network billing itself. We do have a path to federation and to full decentralization of a scaled billing solution, if it makes sense, if it's needed and wanted. Right now, most of our users, that's a secondary, because they have a private node, and it's like they're working with Amazon or another cloud provider, and they know they have proof of the decentralization, or they have decentralized proof. But it doesn't matter as much. But if it is an absolute requirement, that can be totally doable. We're operational on multi-cloud, so even those private components can be decentralized around the world, different data centers. We have operational on-prem capabilities where you can run this thing in your own data center for security reasons or scaling reasons or cost reasons. You can deploy to any data center. We have 700 independent community verification nodes with proof of ownership. We have an operational interchain. So to all of the big projects. Usability, and this is somewhat what we answered in that question a bit ago on, can people use this? Can normal Reddit users use this system? And this is really important. The scaling solution should have a simple end user experience, that the user should not have to maintain any extra state proofs, regularly monitor activity, do anything special as a part of this. It shouldn't be more work for people to use Reddit. So our answer to this is that Dragonchain and our customers have demonstrated extraordinary usability as a feature in many applications, where users do not need to know that the system is backed by a live blockchain. Lyceum is one of these examples where the progress of Academy courses, right now you can use this product as the Dragonchain Academy, which is academy.dragonchain.org. You can go there, you can enroll, you can take courses that teach you about Dragonchain architecture, the ecosystem, various things like this. That system, I will have you know, is entirely natively implemented on blockchain. There is no database. And yet, when you're using it, you would never have any thought that there's a blockchain behind it. And what do we use it for? I mean, because we currently don't have any rewards plugged in. We originally did, but we turned them off. That everything's provable. That is, I can prove that I took this course. I can prove that I took the tests and that I scored on these tests in a certain way. And I can prove that I took the 3 or 4 courses necessary to get a certain certification. And the beauty is that proof is publicly verifiable. Right, that I have that certificate, and that was built in 5 weeks, right? And I do have a crack, amazing team of developers, but for a native blockchain solution that implements tin can standard for learning management systems, in 5 weeks is pretty extraordinary, pretty amazing. So
definitely have another question. Definitely pertains to this area. Are you ready?
Yeah.
All right. So this is from Ryan. Ryan's asking, Chrome extensions are used in other solutions. Can Dragon bypass this to keep the usability the same for Reddit users? If so, how do you envision the user experience with Reddit if Dragon were chosen?
I would say definitely we would not need a Chrome plugin. You could use Chrome plugin. Obviously, there might be a reason that might be cool. It might be for advanced features or something else. But any more than I would say, no more than you could say the same thing about Reddit as it is today without the tokenization. That there might be a reason that you would want a Chrome plugin for Reddit. I know if some exist because you can actually get some to tell if people post in certain subreddits, to know whether they're trolls and whether they're politically not agreeable with you and things like that. There are, but for our scaling solution, no, there would be no reason that you would need to have a browser plugin in any way. That for a user on Reddit, nothing would change. Everything would be exactly the same as it is now. That I would just be able to, make my post, get messages from people, make a reply to something, vote, do the things that I do, and then when I want to withdraw my tokens, or I want to give my tokens to somebody who made some amazing post, and I just want to, tip them or do whatever they might want to do with transfers, or when I want to burn them. That's when the interface might change, and you might have some extra security stuff involved. But generally, like say for saying I want to give somebody the points that I have, there'd be no reason for a plugin, because if the auth is correct, and we do have some solutions for auth that could really make it stronger, but any more than I can already vote today and I can already give gold and do other things on Reddit, it would be all the same. So everything's the same. The next one to look at is Save the Tweet Bot on Twitter. So if you can go to eternal.dragonchain.com, and you can see that you can enter text, you can enter URL, you can enter a tweet URL, you can do various other things, and it's just a browser app. It's just something that's running in your browser, including the cryptographic signing if you pay for premium on Eternal. there's no reason that a normal person who has no experience in crypto can't use that system. And on Twitter itself, you can mention at save the tweet and include please or blockchain or thank you, and it will automatically store the tweet on Dragonchain for you, get you proof all the way up to Bitcoin and Ethereum and so on, and then post the reply to Twitter. So it's pretty amazing. We've actually done that a lot and caught a bunch of tweets that were later deleted, and it's just a cool thing, and a good demonstration because you can see how the system works and you can see the proof report and a bunch of other stuff that is on our system. So other examples in use are DEN, decentralized social media platform with tokenization, where again a normie can use it just as well as a crypto person, and our console where people can track their own rewards. So, and we have some examples here. So here's DEN, and you can see here are some posts with some pretty high up votes, things like that. You can look in here. We can see replies. I can vote on Jeffrey Netherland's reply here. They're always good. And all of this stuff is happening. All the transactions are going on to Dragonchain. Everything. Let's see here. The next one is Eternal. And here's Save the Tweet bot. And if you look at the replies, you can see that people have stored this stuff, and political sometimes, not political sometimes, but the point is these things are stored forever and they're provable forever. That is better than a screenshot, because I can Photoshop a screenshot. I can take a Trump tweet and go into to the browser and modify with the text and then screenshot it, right? So it'd be a very convincing screenshot, but it's not provable. With this, the text is actually coming from the Twitter API and is put on chain contemporaneously, so you can see, okay, this hasn't been modified, and I can check the tweet and I can do whatever else. So really interesting stuff, and yet no browser plugin, no extra crazy UX necessary, right? And then we go to Lyceum, and if I was logged in, I could show you. It might be worth showing you how fast and simple it is. But maybe we do it. Let's see if I have my login. Yes. I don't know if you can see that. So I'm going to go into one of these. Okay, certified user. I'm going to resume the course. All right. I don't know where I left off. I've just done this for demos, right? And so it comes up, and it can see, okay, I've completed these 3 sections, and here's the 4th section. This changes everything on blockchain, right? I don't. So basically, it's just a normal course thing. It tracks your progress. It might at the end ask me, I don't know if there's a quiz at the end or not of this one or not, but you read through the whole thing, it tracks it, okay, you completed it, right? So there must not have a quiz on that one. That was an update or something. So one way or another, though, that whole operation, even the progress through there, is all recorded on chain. So when you come back in there, it knows what you completed and where you left off from transactions on the chain themselves. So anyway, pretty cool stuff. Okay, next, transactions complete in a reasonable amount of time, seconds or minutes, not hours or days. So on Dragonchain, all transactions are immediately usable on-chain by the system. So that is, Reddit could immediately use the data that comes into its level 1 chain. For that matter, they might just integrate with what they already have and not even have any reason to touch that. But the point is, it can be usable immediately. Milliseconds, right? So after it's on-chain, it becomes the path to decentralization. Every 5 seconds, there's a block created on a business node. And again, full decentralization within 10 minutes, 2 hours, all the way to Bitcoin, Ethereum, etc. And within approximately 2 hours, the combined hash power of all interchained blockchains would secure the transaction. So next up, free to use for end users, no gas fees or fixed minimal fees that Reddit can pay on their behalf. So with transaction pricing as low as 25 10 millionths of a dollar per transaction, we do think it would be reasonable for Reddit to cover these transaction fees for users. So this comes to about $7,000 a month. And that's in internal. Those are DragonNet transactions. If they had full and complete integration and adoption with the system. Community points can be earned by users and distributed directly to their Reddit account in batch. So whatever the Reddit minting is, it would happen inside of Reddit, not directly on Ethereum Live. And then the users, when they realize, oh, I have enough rewards, now I'm going to pull them out onto Ethereum, put them onto my hardware wallet, do the various things I would want to do as a crypto-aware user. Sell them, send them to my buddy, whatever else. And we do think that withdrawal fees at that point could be and probably should be paid by the user because they're radically low. I mean, at least for most normal users, 34-cent transaction, even at the kind of the height of right now what Reddit's doing for transaction fees, are reasonable. If I'm withdrawing twice a month or something, who cares? It's less than $1. This model's been running inside Dragonchain since 2018. This is how we do our internal tokens. This is how we do our modeling of Dragon into those internal tokens. And now we start to hit upon the currency or the token transactions. What would occur on the Reddit network verified to Bitcoin and Ethereum? These again would be at that really extremely low rate. And to estimate the fee, we used, and we had to model this to say, okay, this is a conservative estimate. We're not trying to make it look too low or anything like that. We thought, okay, this is probably an unreasonable good adoption rate, that we're saying 60% adoption rate of the token system, which is probably not likely in the first year, maybe not even the first 5 years. That you have some users that come in, never post anything, so they aren't going to maybe they'll get teeny amounts based upon their voting or something else. That there's not enough there for them to withdraw. But however that works, we estimated 10 transactions per month, resulting in a $720 cost across the entire system, right? And that's if you had 48 million active users per month, which is what they report, adoption rate of 60%, 10 transactions per month inside the system. That I'm going to give you a tip, Rocco, and I'm going to burn some coins so I can join some subreddit, stuff like that. So 10 of those a month, which is 288 million transactions a month, and at this fee it's only $720, right? Pretty good numbers.
It's a bargain.
Now, where it gets hard, obviously, is the Ethereum side, which is definitely what they're interested in. That if we had the same numbers, but we said 2 withdrawals per month, because you're mostly here not talking about tipping people or doing things that need a lot of that need to be cheap. This is more, okay, I have too many coins that are held right here, too many tokens, too many points. I'm going to pull them off and put them on my hardware wallet and put it in my safe or wherever, safety deposit box, wherever you store stuff. And if we take these numbers and we say 2 withdrawals per month,
versus 10, right?
Versus 10, right? Yeah, because I'm thinking 10 inside the system. I'm going to tip that. Okay. I'm going to tip that, right? On average, that's probably pretty reasonable. This one would be if I withdraw, if every person in this adoption, 60% of their users withdraws their points twice a month. So every 2 weeks, they're going to withdraw all their points, or or maybe add some in, whatever they're doing. That with an average Ethereum fee of 38 cents, which might be a little high, we're talking about $22 million a month. I mean, that's not something they're going to want to cover, right? So we have some options with this. So the first would be to offload all Ethereum transaction fees to interested users as they wish to withdraw tokens for external user sale. This is some of the guidance that we give to some of the gaming systems that we talk to when they want to start integrating blockchain. That, again, make the game fun, make the platform work, make it simple, make it usable, make it what it's supposed to be first. Because it's not supposed to be a blockchain platform. Nobody cares if it's a blockchain platform. They care if it's fun to use, if it's easy to use. When they have some value built up, when they realize in a game, oh, I have this sword that is a rare sword that maybe is worth something and I don't need it anymore, that's when I'm going to say, okay, I'm not a crypto person, but I could get 20 bucks off that. I'm going to figure out how to pull that out and sell it to somebody, right? In this case, if it's points, if I have more points than I would ever use in a month because I create such great content that everyone loves, that I can now pull some of that out and and sell them and make some money, keep enough in to keep working and doing what I do. And then you're talking, if we're doing that and I only have 2 months, we're talking 76 cents for every one of those users personally. So when they become crypto aware and they realize, oh my gosh, this is amazing. I've been doing this for years and I've not gotten anything out of it but karma, and now all of a sudden I can do something. They're going to pay the 76 cents. They don't, no worries. Now, secondarily though, if they don't want to do that, you can aggregate them on a time schedule, and there might even be a good reason to do this for security. That is, if someone gets attacked in some way, this can prevent people from making mistakes or hacked accounts from getting taken advantage of, things like that, where you would basically schedule and say, okay, I want to withdraw my tokens and I don't need them this very second. I have to know in advance, and maybe it's even an option. If I need them this second, I can pay the 34 cents. But if I don't care, or let's say Ethereum fees go up to $3 some point in the future, who knows, that I can schedule it and say, okay, in the next release, send me my this balance of my tokens, whatever. And that means every 6 hours, every hour, every 24 hours, whatever Reddit would want to do, they would have a series of batch transactions depending on how much how the transaction size, that they would be able to handle all of those for much less. Like say we even saw one of the proposals that came out where they were doing a roll up and basically combining a whole bunch of transactions into one, sending it to a net Ethereum at in batch, and all the transactions happen and it's radically lower in fees, right? So we can plug that in as well. And then of course combination of the above, where customers could cover aggregated fees, right? Where I still cover the fees, but it's much less than it would be. Or if I wanted immediately, I cover the full fee on my own, but if I don't want to cover it, then it just goes into the batch and it just shows up in my external Ethereum wallet when it does. Bonus points. Users should be able to view their balances and transactions via a blockchain explorer style interface. So from interfaces for users who have no knowledge of blockchain tech to users who are well versed in the blockchain terms, a system powered by Dragonchain, every system that is powered by Dragonchain has the same structure of verification. And we have what we call an eternal proof report. And here's an example of one here from a tweet. And this is a deleted tweet, actually. And you can see that it passed through all the levels of verification. Here's the Ethereum, Bitcoin, Ethereum Classic transaction. Here's the approximate amount of zettahashes applied since that date right here. Here's how much time has been applied across those nodes. And you can see here's the raw data that came from Twitter. There's the actual text of the tweet. Here's the the hashes and everything else. Here's the level 1 block, the level 2 blocks, the level 3 block, the level 4 block. Here's the level 5 block. This one actually went to Ethereum. You can click on it and see where it went. All right. We also have console verifications like this. This is inside of the Dragonchain console where you can see every verification that Rocco, you have a node, so you have
yes.
this
I look
report.
at this quite often.
And you can see how much Dragon you were paid for each block that you did work on. Normal
cool
stuff, right?
Yep.
Then we have DEN balance, which this will be much more interesting later, but it's matter and energy. Energy is a score similar to time, and matter is an actual token. It appears, and it's just in your interface when you're inside of DEN. If you reverse back to when I was showing you the DEN platform itself, you can see my time that was in the upper right, or my time, my matter and my energy. And Rainmaker, a customer that we're building stuff for. I mean, they have much the same thing, that these points are rewarded inside of Dragonchain, yet transferable out, right? And the UX, the user experience, can be customized. We can do some really interesting things with it. Okay, exiting is fast and simple. Withdrawing funds on Dragonchain's console requires 3 clicks. However, withdrawal scenarios with more enhanced security features per Reddit's discretion are obtainable. That is, Reddit can decide how they want a withdrawal to work. What are the steps required? Do you have to, I would prefer if you have to sign a transaction with your address, or you have to send an Ethereum fee in, you have to send some Ether into a certain account to prove that you own that wallet, and it can then they will send the tokens out, and now you've paid the fee and you've proven that you own that address. So even if someone hacked your account, the address that you have claimed wouldn't match what they're wanting the Reddit to send it to, and so it wouldn't allow it, right? Simple things like that can be added. Anyway, interop and compatibility with third-party apps. So we've with the demo, with the POC, proven the interop at a scale that surpasses the required specifications. Our entire platform is designed purposely from its inception, from its vision, to offer interop and compatibility with traditional systems and with blockchain systems. So everything we do is about interop. The APIs are well documented. Third-party permissions are possible. Simple smart contract. You can implement your own layers of credentialing and auth on top of it. So interesting stuff. And everything plugs into any API. If there's an existing SDK or API for some system, an accounting system, or any platform, or into Twitter, it's all doable. Very simple. Scaling systems, solutions should be extensible and allow third parties to build on top. So it's open source, it's extensible. We've had several parties that have built add-ons and new views into how the nodes run, into the data. Anything can be built on it. It's software. You can build anything. APIs should be well documented and stable. So we have, again, Python, Node, Go, SDKs. There's a C# SDK that someone just picked up to maintenance of. Before it was unmaintained, but it was there. API references. We have a command shell utility, which is open source as well and has full documentation. Documentation clear and complete. We have the full documentation, so all of GitHub, of course, our architecture. We can point to Disney use cases that were released in when was this? This was a long while back, in 2016 anyway. Might have been 2015, but anyway.
Like 20 years ago, right?
Yeah, a long time ago. Den social media. There's a Dragon Den Blue paper that's interesting for one of the implementations of how you can use Dragonchain platform to scale your business, to scale Reddit, right? Some good ideas in there too. The core documentation itself, all the SDKs, the console, which we can show you the console, and you can look at the business nodes. You can verify. I'm not running a verification node right now on this account. You can look at CTLC. You can look at all different types of stuff, right? So it's all a very friendly web-based console. The time system itself, the academy. Let's see here. Then they ask for third-party permissionless integrations, possible and straightforward. So smart contracts are Docker-based, can be written in any language, can use the full language, not subsets, and can be integrated with any system, including traditional system APIs. We think that matches. Let us know if you have questions. Simple Simple is better, right? People should not have to learn an uncommon or proprietary language, right? Very, very important. So compatibility with common utilities and chains is expected. So Dragonchain business nodes and smart contracts leverage Docker to allow the use of literally any language or executable code. No proprietary language is necessary. And in fact, when we say any language, we mean the full language. We don't mean a subset, like, it's a Python-like language, or it feels like JavaScript, but you can't do these and these things. We're talking about full Node. We're talking about full Python, full C for that matter. We have some stuff's written in C that you get the full facilities of that Linux box that your Docker container is running on. It's a beautiful thing. So developers can do anything. We've witnessed relatively complex systems built by engineers with no blockchain or crypto experience. It's like first time in, they build stuff. It's like, oh, okay, I get it. And then they learn more and they realize, oh, I can do that because it is a blockchain, which I couldn't do with a traditional system. We've also demonstrated the creation of smart contracts within minutes, built with Bash Shell or Node.js. That we have a couple of demos online too, where you can see someone building out very simple Oracle or various things that it was like, oh, I get that, I could use that, and it's really fast to build them. Bonus points. Show us how it works. Do you have an idea for cool new use cases? So, a couple of ideas. Community points could be awarded to Reddit users based upon time, also, or a reasonable similarity, something to like time. On Dragon Den, as an example, we have an energy component that is usable like tokens, but it's never transferable out, and it's what it does is it gives us a little bit of liquidity for a new user, yet it's not cheating, like an old user, that the token is still actually valuable. So it basically keeps it so that the price for a vote can be 1 energy, the price for a post can be 10 energy forever, and we don't have to worry about if the token matter goes radically up in price, and because somebody's not going to make a post if the token's $1. I'm not going to spend $10 to post a comment, and that's our angle between those. You can do stuff like that. You can also track daily logins and credit for daily logins, things like this. Various other. You can also have some level of reputation based upon the duration and the consistency of your contribution, right? You keep coming back. You're always helping us evaluate stuff. You get extra points. You can do lots of things like that, and it's all totally scalable along with the system. Dragon Den, they could look at Dragon Den and see some of the ways we modeled handling FUD, trolls, handling blocking in a much, much more organic way. I don't want to give away too many secrets on it because we're building it. It's fun, but some of these things would be pretty cool plugged into Reddit. I know they've had issues between different subreddits, political in particular, where trolls, brigading, things like this happen. That there are really cool ways we can get around that with blockchain and cryptocurrency and identity. So there are really, really cool things that can plug in there.
Hey, I got another question for you, Joe.
Okay.
This is from Tempo Team 1027. What happens if an L2 is fraudulent and works together with an L1 to get fraudulent data all the way to L5? Is there a way to guard this corruption in the Dragonchain network?
Okay. That answer is pretty big. Or I could talk for a long time about it, but I think the main components are that is why there are multiple L2s. The second angle on it is that the L2, let's say they modified the code, they're running on our own machine. It could disrupt the network a little bit, but you have multiple L2s, so you would get another L2. That's one of the attacks. If you just deny everything, another attack would be to approve something like you say in conjunction with an L1. But then the other two would also have to be compromised, and that's you're not as likely to get that. But we would also put stuff in at the base level, the business level, where because, by the way, this is not talking about verifying the payload data, the business data. This is talking about the network data, saying who you are, having the signature be an actual proper validated cryptographic signature, things like that, which is really readily provable one way or another. It's like it's good or it isn't. But the data we can put in bounties, and you can put in stuff that you could recover a bounty if you expose nefarious activity, say. That's one angle, but that I could go on for hours about. That's a huge thing, and we've done a lot with it on provenance and on, in particular, with Dragon Factor, on modeling designing and modeling an economy around an identity marketplace, basically, where part of your activity is rewarded with tokens, and part of your activity or part of the tokens are applied to your identity itself on chain, so that over time you can see that this person has actually stored up a tremendous amount of reputation by verifying with other people. And it's called proof of human. There's a bunch of really neat stuff around that. Let's see here. Security. Users have full ownership and control of their points. So all community points would be awarded based upon any type of activity or gift, are secured and provable to all interchain networks. So our assumption would be that all of these Reddit nodes, except for maybe if they did some opening for private subreddits, that all the public subreddits would have all their votes, all their posts, all their comments totally public on those nodes. So anybody could look at them and see in the future if there's any, silly stuff going on, right? And from that, all minting would happen, right? So you have the proof of the organic, normal Reddit activity, even for the people who aren't taking advantage of the tokens, right? Even for people who are just, I'm just playing inside of Reddit. I don't ever want to buy a Trezor or a Ledger or anything else. I'm just doing my thing. That all of that proof's still there. And users would be free to spend and withdraw their points as they please, depending on the features the Reddit wants to bring into production. So the next bit would be that balances and transactions can be forged, manipulated, or blocked by Reddit or anyone else. So users can withdraw their balance. And by the way, I would say part of this would be the fact that all of these transactions, not just the fact that this transaction happened, but that I would be able to go to Reddit and I would be able to see your post from yesterday, and I would be able to look on chain and see that, yes, that actually was your post from yesterday, that no one went in and modified your post, including Reddit. No matter who, it's a sysadmin, all the way up to the CEO of Reddit, that everyone in the world would know that that was actually what you posted on that day, right? I think that's really important. And it should be able to reduce some of their liability, any legal liability on some of this stuff too. So anyway, users should own their own points and be able to get on-chain ERC20 tokens without permission from anyone else. And my assumption there is that the contract for minting would require some, whether you do it with oracles or whether you use something else, that it would have to be signed by a provably, some particular or set of particular Reddit keys, and that I could take this signed transaction and give it to the smart contract and be able to, and or have an oracle give it to them. But either way, that we would be able to do this independent of Reddit. That they, even if Reddit didn't want it to happen, that it would happen. So, and as an example, through our console, users can withdraw their tokens. It can be achieved on Reddit to walk. There's a walkthrough here, which I won't go through because I think it's 5 minutes. And we're already at 2 hours. I'm sorry, Rocco. I didn't know it was going to take.
You're good, man. You're good.
I thought it'd be faster. All right. Points should be recoverable to on-chain tokens, even if all third parties involved go offline. So as long as Reddit is still around, what we're saying is that these signed transactions from Reddit system should be usable to get it from the contract independently. And so you might have some way to download every day, the minting, or as I see, oh crap, I minted a bunch of points, I'm gonna pull down this transaction so I can at any point go and claim it. But there's some security to that too, because if I have that signature, then if I'm not careful with it, anybody could use it. Lots of stuff. Public third-party review attesting to the soundness of the design should be available. Okay, to our knowledge, at least 2 large corporations, including a top 3 accounting firm, have conducted positive reviews. We've talked to them. We know what they were looking at and why they were looking at it, and we give them documentation. We let them go, and they've never been made public. And that is in particular because we didn't pay or contract to have the study completed. It was on their own. They their own research, their own use that they were doing these studies. Very interesting stuff.
Do your own research.
yeah, it is. Bonus points, third-party implementation review, see above. Compatibility with hardware wallets and other ecosystem pieces. So this is huge to us, and this is one of the cited choices for using Ethereum, because when the regulators came after us, watch open source money, when the regulators came after us, they were trying to say that, this happened multiple times in fact, they were trying to say that, oh, the reason that you made it ERC20 was because you wanted to make it tradable and you wanted to put it on an exchange. And we're like, well, it's like, that's a reality of the world there, because they are tokens, but our model is tokenized microlicense, and our citation in our very, very, very early documentation, legal and public, was that it is ERC20 primarily to secure it on a network where a good standard was created and has been so well tested that we could never approach the level of testing that ERC20 tokens have had on Ethereum. On top of the fact that it gave our users immediate access to that entire ecosystem that Ethereum has built, which is hardware wallets, software wallets, paper wallets, integration points, and how do you connect it with another? It's like, oh, it's an ERC20. Okay, I already can do that, right? All of the multiple of the block explorers that are already out there, right? We didn't have to write a block explorer day one, right? That's
wow. A lot of benefits.
That's the reason, right? And it makes sense, and we're hybrid, so it, philosophically and architecturally fit as well. So it's huge for us. Other considerations: minting distribution of tokens not performed by Reddit directly. This can be automated by smart contract on Ethereum. Obviously, there are various things we can do. Subreddits can if desired, have a role to play. That's really very much up to Reddit how they'd want to handle this. One-off point burning, as well as recurring non-interactive point burning for subreddit memberships, should be possible and scalable. And I know this is an interesting concept that, if I remember right, Augur project used. No, wait, sorry, not Augur. Another one of my. I love Augur. I'm sorry, I'm blanking on it. I'm gonna get it. OpenBazaar. Beautiful. OpenBazaar is an amazing, amazing project. And in order to prove that you're not a fly-by-night vendor, that you're real, you can burn. At least in the early days, I knew that one of the points is you could burn Bitcoin. It's like, why would anybody burn Bitcoin? It's like, well, if you want to prove to someone that you didn't just set this thing up to steal people's money and never deliver products, that it's a way to set a reputation. So I assume that's their goal with this. I don't know that. But we can do point burning on Ethereum, just like we talked about the other Ethereum transactions, and we can scale that various ways, either scheduled or otherwise. But we can also do point burning inside of Dragonnet itself, because given the fact that the minting, which would happen on whatever schedule, whether it's live or whether it's daily or weekly or whatever, that the fact that I have 50,000 points on Reddit can be easily ascertained and transparently viewed by anyone. Anybody in the world can say, oh, that's this account, and I can do my own math here and see that number's right. I can also see that Joe burned 20,000 of those points 3 days ago, right? So you can do that internally as well with the really, really low transaction fees. So fully depends on what they want to do. Let's see here. Fully open source solution strongly preferred. We already answered that. So conclusion. Sorry, 204. We would like to work with Reddit to do this. In the very least, to offer them some of these ideas to improve their what they're going to do, and ideally also to work with other proposals. If there's a particular roll-up proposal that's very attractive, that we can imagine. They handle the Ethereum side, and we interchain with them, integrate with them to handle everything else. So we can handle the massive scale of traditional Reddit, and yet we integrate with something that will use modern roll-ups, and that we can scale Reddit itself on the token side. It's all beautiful, amazing stuff, right?
Yeah.
So
good stuff.
Yeah, and we're talking, the costs are so radically low.
Yeah, it's amazing.
And there would be integration, there would be testing, obviously, but I know, the main point of this is that, we could integrate really fast, this whole thing. So that's it. I'm not going to cover this in the proposal. We also went through a lot of the stuff about Disney, how we were open source, why we were open sourced, so that people can review for themselves without the help of any trolls on Twitter, what the real history was with Dragonchain at Disney and coming out of Disney and all that stuff, because you can see why, and when you read that, you'll understand why we did what we did, and why we did it the way that we did it, and it was a lot of work. So it's not not some simple silly thing that we just threw out. It was a few years worth of development, and then release, and then a few more years, and then a lot of getting. We take these slings and arrows for you, the community.
It's like running a marathon for you.
But anyway, so it's all fun, and that's the end of the proposal. So let me see here. What were we going to cover at the end? Wow, 2 hours. It's the longest Super Happy Dragon. No, it isn't. Sorry, the 24-hour was Super Happy, wasn't it? I think. So let's see here. So please go and upvote after sitting for 2 hours with me. Thanks for doing that. Go and upvote this video wherever you're at. This is live on LinkedIn, on Facebook, on Periscope, Twitter, and on YouTube, obviously. They subscribe to our channel, things like that. We have a merch giveaway. Okay, so from the commercial that you saw at the beginning of the show, the Satoshi commercial. We have a few others. We have a set of Liberty commercials that we're all supposed to be airing live on Discovery Science Channel along with Open Source Money, but the first two were never approved. They were censored. They were blocked. One of them was Assange, but the other one was JFK, a speech from '61 that was censored. So anyway, so we're just putting them out instead, social, and but they're all, it's the same meaning, but this is basically the Satoshi shirt. So the code, there's one to be given away. The code is SHDL-P2PC. Okay, SHDL, peer-to-peer cash, right? P2PC. All right. So go and somebody go get that shirt. It's a cool shirt. And let's see here. Watch Open Source Money this Saturday, 10 a.m. Again,
season finale.
Yeah. Again, you can still watch last week's show and enter this week and get an entry for episode 4 and for grand prize. But then watch again Saturday, and you're going to get another entry for episode 5 and the grand prize. So it's a good thing to promote that show. It's very much a normie-friendly look at blockchain projects and what we're trying to do, what we're all trying to do, hopefully.
That's great.
Saturday, 10 a.m., Discovery Science. Grand prize will be chosen next Thursday. So we'll have a show next Thursday, Super Happy Dragon Lucky, and We'll go through all this again, but we'll give away the grand prize. It'll be pretty cool.
500,000 dragons.
Yeah.
Dang.
Yes, it'd be pretty awesome. So, like, comment, subscribe, and thanks for watching.
Have a good one, guys.
Bye. Sorry it was so long.